Welcome to my channel. Today I decided to give a second chance to the book about witches. Well, when I purchased this book, I had a huge expectations and I was thinking that I will spend the whole October with this book, but unfortunately, after my first attempt to color something here, it was a huge bucket of cold water, a huge disappointment, of course, because of the paper. Designs are insanely beautiful, very detailed, but book is small and paper is very thin. Apart from this thin quality of the paper, for me it's also quite soft. So when I try to do backgrounds with markers, I have to think how marker pigment would spread on this paper. And I already discovered that when you color here, you have to be very careful about faces, about hands, because alcohol pigment spreads quickly and you probably need to leave a couple of millimeters until the edge of the colored area, because otherwise there will be bleeding, and that's definitely not what I like about this paper. Also, I still don't know which pencil brands work better here. When I color with Prismacolors, for me it seems that they look a little bit grainy. When I work with polychromos, it's better, but somehow I tend to press too hard here, and there is a risk to damage the whole paper. Yeah, because it's thin, so I'm still very um, very disappointed with this first attempt. I hope that the second page, where I don't have to do huge empty background with markers, where I need only to fill small areas, and after that I intend to switch with two pencils. I hope that it will be better. On the other side, it's quite complicated for me to do my color planning. You know that usually I prefer to plan at least 90% of colors in my head. But here, yes, I plan all my colors. But here we have so many lovely secondary details, all those magical plants, magical elements, and books on the shelf that, of course, I want to color all of them quite colorful. And in the beginning, when I did only uh, the greenhouse, then girl witches, I was happy with my coloring. But in the end, when I started to add many colorful elements on the background, I realized that picture starts to be so motley, so childish looking that I need to stop. And I am glad that I realized it in time. In the end, you will see that I tried to color as many elements in one color, and it still looked very motley. I don't have anything apart from the like explosion of color. Maybe I had to be more moderate in my color palette, and in such way picture would be more like adult coloring. But of course the subject here, it tends to inspire us to use many beautiful colors. Yes, this page turned out in the end slightly better comparing to the first one, but still, to color on this paper it's more struggle with paper with art supplies rather than enjoying these designs. Of course, I intend to continue coloring here, maybe even in this month, but I definitely don't intend to purchase any more books, uh, bec- even if they are really beautiful. And I know that recently she published another book, but in such quality, one book is enough for me. I can't color very frequently on such paper, and even when I combine various mediums, well, still result is not exactly like I imagine it. So, well, not as big disappointment as the first page, but still a lot of struggle during this coloring. And I decided that as I got a request to make a coloring tag, very popular now about coloring memories, maybe I can add it also to this video. Honestly, I am not a big fan of tags, especially those which are about personal things, but this one about coloring, so I think that it's quite lovely. It's a little bit difficult to think about coloring now, to talk about coloring with all those terrible things which we have in the world, but if it helps someone to spend maybe 10 minutes to think about anything else apart from all those terrible news, I will be happy. I will put questions of this tag down in the info box. Unfortunately, this tag now is so popular that I'm not sure who was the original author, but I will try to find and I will put a name again down in the description. Question number 1 is: did you have a favorite coloring book when you was a child? Well, I think that I have slightly different experience in coloring books comparing to many other colorists, because when I was a child, coloring wasn't very popular and amount of coloring books was quite limited, at least where I lived. Of course, there are books, but I think that probably only for children like 2-3 years and nothing much more interesting. From my own childhood, I remember only a couple of books which really impressed me. The first one, it was not totally coloring. It was a book where you just need to use a wet brush, you put it on the paper and color magically appeared. After some time it disappeared, but and you can color it once again. Very interesting, and I was mesmerized just how you put only water on paper and beautiful colorful flowers appeared. So that was my first memory. Second memory was about more serious books. Comparing to the books which were available in our bookshops, it was a book on totally different level. My father went to business trip to Czech Republic, and I think that here he purchased a couple of those books. There were fairy tales illustrated. Of course, I wasn't able to read them, they were in Czech language, but pictures were beautiful. Unfortunately, I got them when I was relatively small, like maybe 5 years, maybe even lesser amount. So even if when I was mesmerized, I colored them in such terrible ways that it was total waste. That's definitely when books were too complicated for me. And the other biggest problem was that in my childhood we didn't have decent colored pencils. Available pencils, they were very hard and pale, so I never used them. And I had to use either felt tip pens, but their colors, they were so bright that you can imagine how child could color even beautiful illustrations to the fairy tale with colors of uh, felt tip pens. But at least I tried to stay in lines. So that book, even beautiful, it was totally messed up, and I wish that I got it maybe when I was already a couple of years older. Maybe then I would do better work. And it didn't encourage me such state of coloring books to search for more books to color more. And the third book, which I clearly remember, it was more like DIY when you need to color various parts of the forest. So you have one spread like forest, and then you on separate paper you color tree with empty branches, then tree in full bloom, and you can cut them, and on this first huge spread you can like create various scenes for summer, for spring, and it was quite nice. So you color this tree in bloom, you put it in the middle, then you color various berries and flowers which are traditional for spring. You also cut them and you put them on the first spread. Then if you want to switch to fall, again you can switch to another element. So it was very interesting DIY, and I still remember it with a very warm feeling. That was all my experience about coloring in my childhood. So the second question is about art supplies, and I already said that I didn't use any colored pencils, they were terrible. I didn't like felt tip pens because they had very bright colors, so only for small elements, and even in my childhood I realized that such green colors blue colors which I had in my sets, they're definitely not the best choice for the subjects which I like to color, flowers, plants. So mostly I used watercolor. Watercolors were really good. I had almost professional set of them, so that was my main media for coloring. Next question is, did you color or draw more like a child? And I draw more. Still not much, because I realized that what I draw, I don't like it and I didn't know how to do it properly. But I had a couple of books trying to teach me to draw, but I was too small to use them in some productive way. The only thing I was able to do, I simply copied some designs from those books, and those drawings, they look okay. But when I try to do something from myself, of course it looked totally different and totally terrible. So you know what I did all my childhood? I draw paper dolls. You know that those dolls which you first you do doll and then you do various costumes, various dresses, head designs, and you attach them to those dolls. We didn't have such dolls, or maybe we had such already um, uh, ready sets which you could purchase and cut, but that was not the style which I was interested. I was interested in medieval dresses, in something like costumes for princes and other characters. Quite often when I read a book and uh, there was uh, described some beautiful dress for the queen, princess, or other lady, I try to draw it according to this explanation, and in such way I collected paper dresses for my ladies, for my dolls, and I spent quite a happy time doing such thing. I studied different costumes from various times, so it was also quite educative. And for such things, I mostly used watercolors and then felty pens for small details like laces, ribbons. So I combined various mediums, but still watercolor was the main one. It was quite interesting, and indeed it was. I was quite creative. I tried to do various hairstyles, various accessories, jewelry to those paper dolls. So it was really a very happy time, and I have a lot of sweet memories. Probably it also covers answer to the fourth question, do you have a favorite coloring memory as a child or adult? So that was my favorite coloring memory as a child. Well, about an adult, I don't think that I have any particular memories. Of course, I when I look at my pictures, I remember if I colored some of them during some moments which I associate with some time, like beginning of the war or any other thing, but that's definitely not a happy memory. I remember pictures which I colored for my birthdays. Apart from it, I can't say that I can actually connect my pictures to some memories in my adult coloring life. I color them more for relax, and I color now in quite a big amount of pictures, so I can't say that any particular pictures have bigger significance for me. I just know that mostly I try to color when I am in a good mood. I try not to convert any bad feelings into my pictures. Yeah, some of them really help me to distract from bad things, but when I color, I always try to have really good memories about all my finished pictures. So let's move to the question number 5. What was your first adult coloring book? Oh, that's easy. It was Lizzie Mary Cullen Magical Cities, and it was the first coloring book which I saw on YouTube, and I was very fortunate that when I started to search it, magically it was available in my country, because here even now we have absolutely limited amount of available coloring books, and at that moment I never know about such things like book depository or possibility to purchase in other bookshops with delivery to Ukraine. So when I discovered that magical cities were available here, I was crazy happy, and it was my first book. Number 6. What was your first adult coloring supply? And it was Derwent Inktense. And actually, that's what pushed me into searching something about these very original pencils on YouTube, because I tried to use them. I wasn't very happy with my first attempts. I wanted to find some info, some videos about these pencils, and apart from videos how to use them for drawing, I also discovered videos how to use them for coloring, and that's where I discovered for myself the whole world of adult coloring. And that's why my first book, after Derwenting Tense, my first book was Magical Cities. How did you get into adult coloring? That was question number 7. So that's how I got into adult coloring. I tried to find info about Inktense. I saw first adult coloring book. It was on Peter Hewitt channel, and then I started to look for more under this tag adult coloring. I discovered which authors already were available on the market at this time. I think there were already books by Hannah Carson, and I discovered that it's totally different thing from my childhood. Then I traveled to Paris on a business trip, and in a real bookshop I discovered a couple of coloring books about Paris, and that also was another stimuli for me to look at the whole market of adult coloring and how I can compensate for my inability to draw, but when I still want to do art. So it discovered for me the whole world of adult coloring. First channel of Peter and those books which I saw in bookshop in Paris. Well, I always answer in advance because our next question is number 8. Who was your first YouTube colorist? And that was Peter Hewitt. For a long time I watched only her channel, and only after that I discovered Chris Cheng. I was mesmerized by Peter's works, and when I started to color after Peter's tutorials, my coloring immediately moved into another level, because my first attempts, even when I am proud of them, when I compared them with works by Peter with Inktense pencils, how she blended them, how she combined colors, it was again on totally different level. So she helped me a lot to realize what it's possible to do with various media, how it's possible to color, to get really quite serious artworks in coloring books. So I will forever will be grateful to Peter for showing me this magical world. Number 9. What was the first page you was proud of? Honestly, I don't remember. I think that it was something in Magical Christmas by also by Lizzie Mary Cullen, or maybe a huge spread with English villages in magical cities. So I can say that I was proud, maybe really proud. I started to be maybe after a year of coloring, when I already started to use Prismacolor pencils. First, I was just content. I mostly concentrated on pleasant feelings during the process, not on the result. So only maybe after I got Prismacolors, I really was proud of my works, because I always loved that look of very well blended pencils, that buttery look which I wasn't able to get with my first set of pencils, even with color softs. So proud, probably first works which I did with Prismacolors, and it was in Summer Nights by uh, Hannah Carson. But pictures where I already started to enjoy, to realize that I can improve, I can learn. It was again with Inktense in Magical City and Magical Christmas. Number 10. At what point did you think, yes, I am now absolutely an adult colorist? Well, I think that it was a moment when I realized that I totally abandoned my previous hobby, cross stitching, and that the majority of my free time I did dedicate to adult coloring, and that poor cross stitching I only do when I need to spend some time during travels or other moments when I simply can't color. And maybe the other moment was when I opened my channel and when I realized that already maybe 100 people or around it subscribed and left me some nice comments. So I realized that my work, it not only gives pleasure to myself, that other people also approve it and to like it. So maybe that was the moment, or maybe that was when I realized that the huge part of my bookshelves are occupied by my huge collection of coloring books. That was another moment. And final question is, who is who in coloring community was a support and helped you? Well, as I said, really, Peter, who introduced me into this world, and when she left her first comment after under my videos, it was a moment of big happiness. So, and another, it was Coloring Queen. She also left quite um, encouraged and supportive comments, and she also was very supportive. So that's probably two persons. Apart from it, I can't say that I feel a lot like part of coloring community. Maybe in Facebook a little bit more, but recently I almost stopped to participate on Facebook groups because, well, I am a little bit disappointed with the amount of colored grayscale pictures created by AI. It takes the more and more area in coloring groups. So now I mostly participate in groups dedicated to only one artist, like group about Kirby Rasanas, group about Teresa Goodrich, group about mythographic. There at least I am sure that that's about books which I love and without artificial intelligence. And of course, all my supporters, all my subscribers also really helped me to feel the part of this community, because I always appreciate your comments and you were with me during the difficult times of my life, and it's really very helpful. I think that without it I would abandon it for a long time already. So huge thanks to Peter and Colin Queen Leah, and I hope that it wasn't very boring, because as I said, I'm not a big fan of answering questions for personal coloring tags, but this one really helped me to remember some very sweet moments from my childhood, and it was really nice. I hope that you will also watch two next parts about this poor picture about witches, and that this a little bit complicated coloring won't be a reason for myself to totally abandon this book, because I really want to try at least another one. Maybe I will do it completely with pencils, and then I will be able to make final decision. Can I color on this book, or it's just a waste of time? Because sometimes when you struggle a lot with paper, even the beauty of pictures, it simply doesn't worth it.